We on?
Yes.
Facebook Live, we there?
All right.
Little technical difficulties. All right, hey everyone, happy Friday. Matt Kmeyer, Director of Operations with St. Louis Finest Homes. I have here in the office with me the owner, Mike Galway, and listing specialist. Today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a little mock interview. We feel that there's a lot of talk and there's a lot of prep work to, when you're in the process of buying or selling, but there's really not a lot of talk about the pre-prep work, so to speak.
Sure, how do you get there?
Yeah, exactly. So basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to put together a mock interview of some important questions that Mike believes would really differentiate between an average agent and a true expert. So to kind of start us off here, Mike, people who are looking to buy or sell, how many agents do you think that they interview?
Typically, we found that most people just interview one agent and pick that person, unless there's something that stands out that they don't vibe with. They're going to probably just pull the trigger on that person, and that's about 87% of the time.
Yeah, and we ran those numbers, and yeah, I mean, only 87% of people are only interviewing one real estate agent. And you would think, the American dream, most people would care more about their investment. And another statistic going into that is, you've all heard of the 80-20 rule, right?
Yeah. 20%
of the people do about 80% of the business. Well, we ran some numbers, and the numbers are actually, it's a 94-6.
Yeah, we were absolutely amazed by this statistic that 4% of the people, 6% of people do 94% of the business. So we were just amazed by how.
Yeah, and the thing is, so going back to that 87%, if only about 87% of the people are interviewing one agent, and we know that 6% of the people do 94% of the work, that means that you're getting stuck with the 94% of the agents the majority of the time, right?
Sure.
Yeah, and that's kind of a scary thing. So Mike and I kind of put our heads together and kind of generated a list of questions that we feel when you're in the process of looking to buy or sell that would really differentiate between an average agent and an expert. So we ready to get started?
Let's get started.
All right, first question, and pretty simple. How many families did you help buy and sell last year?
So when you're asking an agent this question, your goal is to find out what their experience level with helping buyers and sellers is. You're looking for them to have a fluent knowledge of the process, that they've seen enough pitfalls through the process, because here's the thing, any agent could get your house under contract, but can they get to the closing table and get you the most money at the end of the day? So you're really looking for the expertise here and basically what they've learned throughout their career.
Yeah, and there are some people, like you said, that will, I like to keep my business on a smaller level so that I can ensure you're getting the service that you want. But really, in all reality, no one's going to turn down more business.
Correct. Basically, when somebody tells you that, they're ultimately just saying that my business has plateaued at this position. Yeah. And basically, they would always go out and get more business if they had the ability to.
Yeah, no, I agree, 100%. All right, of the homes you sold last year as a seller's agent, what was the average number of days on market?
So what you're looking here is basically what's your marketing time, right? So what is the amount of time that you have to show your home? You have to get the family out. You want to be able to minimize that, right? But at the same time, you also want to maximize your dollar. So you're looking for two things here. You're basically looking for that time on market, on average, to be at a comfortable period of time. You don't want it to be too long because nobody wants to be showing their house for months at a time. But then you also don't want the average to be days. You don't want an agent to come in and say, well, my average days on the market is 3 to 4 days. What that tells me is basically they're just underpricing the properties in order to get that done. There's nothing wrong with marketing a property to get it sold in a couple days because that happens, but when it's on average, you got to question it.
Yeah, and really, again, a lot of times people don't really put the strategic thought process into somewhat challenging an agent's marketing to get the listing, so to speak.
Sure.
Yeah, so, all right, so what was the average percentage between list price and contract price? I feel this is a really good one because it goes back into talking about the pricing the property in days on market.
Absolutely, and so what you're looking for here is the fact that, when an agent tells you this is what we should price the property at, that the price that they're typically selling the property isn't significantly lower, right? That just says that maybe they're buying the listing by saying, oh, Matt, your $300,000 house, we can put that up at $350,000.
I'll take an extra 50 grand.
Of course, right? No, who wouldn't?
Sign here.
But at the end of the day, if the market, the buyers for your house will not search up to 350, now you're in no man's land, and basically your days on the market tick and tick and tick. And what we find is that the end result of that is where they probably could have got 300,000 for their house. Now they're getting 290, 285, 280.
Because it's been on that market for so long.
Right.
Yeah. No.
And people think something's wrong with it, right? When something's been on the market for that long.
Yeah, and I would say properly pricing a property is so important because, I mean, really your window of success, you know, right when you put a listing on live, I mean, you got a short window to really capitalize on that to get you the most money possible.
Oh, 100%. I mean, basically what you're looking at is the buyers are most motivated in coming in early on. They know the listing is new to the market, so they're going to want that property even more, especially if they see other buyers looking at the same time, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody wants what other people want.
Oh yeah. No, absolutely. Okay, so next question. What and kind of go into a little, you know, kind of educate everyone on exactly this term, but what kind of market share do you and your company have?
Sure. So what you're looking for here is, you know, you can get an agent from a bunch of different avenues. You can get an agent that, you know, works for an international company that has a presence throughout the world, or you can get an agent that is a small boutique. Quite honestly, there isn't a wrong way to look at this. But at the end of the day, their market share in their community says, you know, how much do they see in that area. And the thing about having a market share is that you can determine the changes in that market, because when you talk to a seller today and they don't list until summertime, the market could have changed then. And the problem is that there's micro trends, and if you have a good market share, you can see those micro trends coming and prepare your sellers for that change to, you know, either price their property higher or lower appropriately in order to get the most for it.
Yeah, and I agree. And I mean, to have a market share in your neighborhood, I mean, you want an agent that has done business in your area. I mean, you don't want Joe Blow coming out from no man's land, like you said, trying to sell in an area that they really don't understand those micro trends. So super powerful question there. All right, do you have an administrator or assistant?
Sure. And so, you know, there's nothing wrong with an agent that ultimately is a solo agent. But at the end of the day, you kind of got to think about how much goes into a real estate transaction. You know, while getting the property ready, the property's on the market and under contract, that really when an agent's out there meeting with you and they're a solo agent, you got to turn back and go, well, who's taking care of the clients right now? Because they're with me, right? And so if they have an administrative assistant, that administrative assistant's sole job is to making sure that the paperwork gets through quickly. Because what we notice is that a lot of times different people throughout the process work on a very short time frame. Like they want the stuff now. And if that agent's out there on appointments, they're not getting it to them now.
Yeah, and I think that this is a very powerful question during the interviewing process because, again, you know, you want to ensure that, hey, you know, because I know that I'm not your only client, and I want to know if you're out assisting or helping another potential client, who am I talking to? Which I think is going to lead us into the next question, is that when a buyer calls on my home, will you always be the one that they communicate with?
Sure. So this is an interesting one because, you know, if you list with certain companies, they have what's called phone duty. So either newer agents or even seasoned agents, they basically sign up for a phone duty. And so when somebody calls on the sign or sometimes inquires on the internet, depending on how their office is routed, that will go to that phone duty agent. And so that phone duty agent, at the end of the day, you know, they don't really know your home because they weren't the agent or the team that you signed up with. And so when push comes to shove, that agent really doesn't have a vested interest in getting your home sold. They just have a vested interest in picking that person up as a buyer.
Good point.
Right? So you're going to want that phone to ring where the people have the vested interest.
And that would ultimately be on the team where the listing was drawn up at.
100%.
Yeah, no, I agree 1,000%. All right, so kind of going a different route here, still a very important question in the interviewing process is, can you provide me with references or recent reviews?
Sure. So you should ask somebody right then and there. at the table if they could provide you with references. I mean, they should easily be able to pick up their cell phone. I mean, it's tethered with us 24/7 at this point in
Absolutely.
this reality. And they should be able to just basically pull up, I worked with this client, they bought in your area or they sold in your area, and basically be able to give those references to you.
Yeah, and I think with a tech world that we're in, I mean, Google, Zillow, Realtor.com, or even your own personal website, just like you said, you should be able to just flick a button and be able to the agent should be able to show you their references on spot.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so kind of going back into the communication aspect of it again, if I'm a seller and you're my real estate agent, how are you going to communicate with me about your efforts, and how accessible will you be during the process?
Sure. So this is important in the fact that, the number one issue that we hear from the public about realtors is the lack of communication. Basically, they didn't hear what was going to happen next, or they just ultimately didn't get communicated properly through the process, expectations, what was going to go on through the process. So this is super important. This kind of goes back to that administrative assistant part, because they're communicating with you in every step of the way. And from an agent standpoint, a lot goes into the real estate business. So ultimately, if an agent's running around wearing all those hats, I've got to believe that the communication is going to drop off. And at the same time, if you don't have your actual agent's number, their cell phone number, I would pause that to be a huge problem.
No, I agree 100%. Yeah, because just like you said, there's so many steps and there's so many hats that a real estate agent wears that they cannot be in more places at once. And so leveraging the team aspect of it to be able to ensure, like you said previously, clients have a short window when they want a question, they want it answered right then and there. Mm-hmm. And if you're helping another client or you're at a closing, having that team to leverage out those other phone calls and questions would be super beneficial. So great right there. All right, so kind of going into another question here. Working with a real estate agent, someone who kind of prides themselves on a business that they've built, would you allow the seller to terminate the listing contract if they were not completely satisfied?
Absolutely. At the end of the day, we want to only work with clients that are satisfied and want to work with us. So be wary of any agent that's not willing to end that relationship if basically you're not feeling satisfied. At the end of the day, we all want to make it right. And so that's really the first step. If somebody is not seeing something go right, basically we want to fix that.
Right.
But if it's not mendable, sometimes people just find out that they're just not the right fit.
And that happens.
It happens, and we're never going to hold somebody captive to that.
Right.
There are agencies out there that will basically try to pass you down the pipe. Okay, you're not having a good experience with Sally. Well, why don't you do Matt? He's got a nice face. Why don't you work with this guy? Because ultimately they're trying to keep the deal within the office.
That makes sense.
If you didn't have a good experience from the get-go, I truly feel that you should be able to discontinue that relationship with that agency and then start that process over. Okay, so obviously if you didn't have a good experience, maybe you didn't dive into the interviewing process as deep as you should have. And so now, the next time around, you should interview a few more agents and really understand and dive deep into how, did it go right before and how it go wrong before and how can it go right now.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And kind of slowly, wrapping this up here. That's really the main goal, is because here's the thing, just like you said, some agencies won't allow you to break the contract. And so if you don't take the time to really interview and make sure that you hire the right agent, you could be locked into something, and if you don't have the right agent, that means a terrible experience, a loss of money, coming out of your pocket. Maybe you didn't get the best price, mm-hmm. or maybe it sat on the market too long, or maybe they weren't a strong negotiator. So really the benefit, to ensuring that you're getting a top agent, just like Mike said, these interviewing questions will really speak volumes. Anything else that you would want to say, maybe to a potential person who's thinking about buying or selling, an additional question or, additional kind of tip, when hiring a real estate agent?
Sure. So, basically take your time. There's no rush to get the property listed on the market today. Basically, pick a couple agents to interview, ask them the detailed questions, really dive to see if you have a good fit with that person, because ultimately it's like a relationship.
Absolutely.
You're going to be with that person from the time that you get the property starting to listed to the time it closes, at minimum probably about 90 days, from market to under contract.
Sure.
So you're going to really have to know that you're going to vibe with that person. And so take your time.
I like that.
Date a couple people.
Yeah. And you think that, a lot of times people are like, well, I need to go. But if you don't take the right steps to really date around and interview and ask the right questions, I mean, it could be a very dissatisfied and unpleasuring experience. So we hope that you saw value in kind of these questions that we kind of put together. Be on the lookout, because what Mike and I are going to do is we're going to be able to create a downloadable list for you guys. If you are thinking about buying or you are thinking about selling, we're going to provide a downloadable list of these questions on our website. And we'd love the opportunity to interview. If you're looking to buy or sell, Mike would love the opportunity to interview that.
So there's going to be a link below that you can sign up to set up a time with us, so that if you're buying or selling, or you're looking in the next 12 months, 6 months, we would love to talk to you now, really set the stage and start figuring out that we would be a good fit to work with each other.
Yeah. So appreciate you guys taking some time on a Friday to hear more about the interviewing process and the importance of the interviewing questions. Stay tuned for more committed value, and we look forward to helping you with all of your real estate goals in 2019.
Thank you.
High five, man.